Welcome to Arcade Beat, the show where we listen to soundtracks from video games and analyze them to figure out what makes them work, not just as a piece of music, but as a part of something larger. Ever wonder why the music to Mario 64 sounds exotic yet familiar at the same time? Or why you can't get that riff from Mega Man 2 out of your head? Arcade Beat has you covered. Let's go ahead and move on to Love Psalm.
Pretty interesting. Sounds like the designer's son plays guitars. The composer does.
Yeah, the composer, Akira Yamaoka, which I should have mentioned. Oops, forgot to pause. I should have mentioned before this, but Silent Hill 2 was composed and, in many cases, performed by Akira Yamaoka. He plays the guitar on all of the tracks that feature guitar.
Yeah. This track basically sounds like it would, like if the theme of Lara was like a band putting an album out, this would be on the same album. This is very much this. It's very much the same
it's
sound.
It's a similar kind of modern rocky thing. It's got little different instrumentation, but the same basic groove. I mean, not the same basic groove, but the same basic sentiment in a way in terms of how it's played and what it is.
Yeah. So when I initially shared my game location notes with you, Sully, I didn't have the location of this one, but I did some research, and this song plays during the credits of Born from a Wish, which is the additional scenario that is sort of a prequel to Silent Hill 2, where you play as Maria and the events from her waking up in Silent Hill until she meets James. And this is the credits song of that, and it plays, after she has sort of resolved to meet James and to love him unconditionally, kind of thing.
I was gonna say it has that sound. It has that the end credits kind of. We're wrapping it up. Here's the end kind of vibe to it. And so that's exactly how it comes across.
Yeah. And yeah, like you were saying, there's definitely this same sound that's been in all of these. Every time Akira Yamaoka is on the guitar, it has this almost nostalgic and somber tone to it. And I have learned that one of the tricks to making something sound nostalgic is to have it be happy and sad at the same time, because that in essence what triggers that feeling of nostalgia is this feeling of happiness and sadness at the same time. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting because a lot of the music in Silent Hill 2 has that sort of it's definitely a very depressing and sad and stressful place, but there is this sort of hope that, guides you through the entire game.
Yeah. It's got it.
Yep.
Yeah. And, again, the name Love Psalm is sort of this reference to, Maria's determination at the end of Born from a Wish, and it's sort of like her love song to James in a way.
Yeah.
I'll buy that.
Yeah.
I don't have to know what I'm talking about. I just have to sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
It doesn't always work. I mean, it's not working for the president.
Well,
let's not go there. Let's move on.
Speaking of moving on, let's go ahead and listen to Silent Heaven.
That's neither silent nor heaven.
Not quite.
Yeah.
So one thing I would like to point out about this track is that it's actually 2 different songs that sort of got put together for the soundtrack.
It's like incidental music. It's stuff that plays in like areas while you're free running a little bit, right?
Yeah. So the first half up until about 1:25 is when James is close to Silent Hill, having gone through the forest, and he's about to like get to Silent Hill proper. The second part plays when you're inside Woodside Apartments, which is where you meet good old Mr. Pyramid Head himself.
Ooh.
And relating back to the title, one thing that Akira Yamaoka said that I think is really interesting. He has a quote that is, "Silence is also a sound." And I think that sort of pervades his mentality when doing a lot of this soundtrack. There is not really a whole lot of music that plays while you're playing Silent Hill 2. The majority of it is this sort of just background droning, kind of unsettling sounds and atmosphere.
So the thing about that I thought was kind of fun and interesting is that it kind of broke my expectation in a certain way, because I was thinking like, okay, horror thriller, maybe he'll do it up like a Hitchcock film, and like silence can be eerie because it makes it seem too real kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual silence in this game is safety.
Yeah.
If it's actually silent, nothing is happening.
Mm-hmm.
You get a lot of this non-music, like not like traditional music where it's like a lot of industrial metallic sounds and stuff like that, but that's, I guess, more atmosphere than silence. That's I guess the music douchebag in me attributes it to the that John Cage piece, the 3 minutes 44 seconds that everyone makes fun of, like, because it's just guy just sits at the piano and doesn't play.
Yeah.
Like the whole actual, it's I would be pissed if I paid for a ticket to go see that, but the concept behind it is kind of cool in that like your environment is what you perceive as silence, and it's not actually silence. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of holds true here, because you get all these weird sounds and they're not perceived as music, but they're just kind of like background and there. They almost become like the white noise of the game, but it's really fucking creepy white noise, because that's what this game is. Yeah. So it's like the I guess the base concept is that like that's what like he did interviews about that, where like if you're in New York City, silence is like car horns outside and sirens and stuff like that, or if you're in the woods, it's crickets, you know.
Yeah. For me right now, silence is the ice cream truck's jingle.
Yeah, exactly.
Must resist urge to buy ice cream.
Did somebody say ice cream? Ice cream.
Oh. I'm sorry, continue.
Sorry.
I get very easily distracted.
Yeah, me too.
It's almost like we're related.
Almost like there's a genetic thing. I know.
Oh, man.
It's crazy. Oh, no. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was it. I just thought it was kind of cool that like actual silence was actually a safety point in this game, and this is what you hear when it's just kind of like, this is the background noise when there could be something spooky, when it's uneasy, when you feel like you're in this like surreal state.
Yeah.
Right.
There is a part near the end that I kind of wanted to call attention to, and it almost sounds like the track is like hitting this loop unnaturally, like, you know, when a record is left on the turntable or something, like when a record is like skipping on the turntable kind of thing. And it just has this like perfect loop and repetition to it, and there is something like really unsettling about perfect repetition, because it's so unnatural. Like, even if you're not consciously aware of it, on some level you're aware of the fact that like you were saying, you know, silence is just sort of like the ambient things that you hear. And if like you're listening to like a string hitting a flagpole, you know, you're listening to that and you can hear it and it's not on any sort of noticeable pattern. If you suddenly started to hear that like tapping to a specific rhythm, that would be unsettling because it's like, who's doing that? What's doing that? That's not natural. So it sort of ties into that. Again, it's like this basic psychology that they're using to play with you and just make you feel uneasy.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and listen to Laura Plays the Piano.
Spooky.
Yeah, it is kind of spooky, but it's not like overtly spooky.
No, again, it has that under, like, things are okay, almost.
Yeah. So this song plays when you're at Lakeside Hotel, and there's a part where Laura is hiding behind a piano, and as James walks into the room, Laura just sort of like gung, like just smacks on the piano to spook James, which is a really dumb idea considering at this point in the game there's like a 99% chance that you have a gun equipped to James and he's walking in there with like a pistol in his hands. So you don't really want to spook someone who's actively wielding a pistol, but that's neither here nor there. The fact that the song is named Laura Plays the Piano, I think is very important to the structure of the song. And this is just maybe my interpretation, but it's almost sounds like there's two very distinct layers of the song happening at the same time, which is very indicative of how Laura fits into Silent Hill. She is this normal person, this normal character who is not experiencing all of the crazy monsters and all the weird geometry and everything that's going on with James. She's a normal person who is sort of overlapping with this crazy world that James is experiencing. And this song almost sounds like there's just like a person normally playing this little piano song with this like weird synthy reverby thing going on top of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Laura's role gets... I don't want to jump too deep into it because I feel like it's going to become more relevant in another track.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I don't think Laura... Like, Laura's the character that doesn't exist to get through their... Well, then, in a way, they all do this. Laura doesn't really exist to get through her own stuff so much as to pull honesty out of James about his scenario.
Yeah.
But I feel like in a way all the characters kind of do that, but they do it in more of like a I mirror you kind of way than Laura does.
I'm not me, I'm you.
Yeah.
in a less literal than Arnold Schwarzenegger clone movie syndrome, but yes.
Right, yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To the terror in the depths of the fog?
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to that.
Yeah.
Laura plays the piano. Again, we'll get more into some of the nitty-gritty a little bit later, but for now, let's go ahead and listen to Terror in the Depths of the Fog. This song plays during Maria's Born from Wish scenario as she's walking to Rosewater Park, which is where she ends up meeting James during the Silent Hill 2 scenario proper.
Is that Sasquatch in the background?
May as well be.
Is that the Sasquatch?
That's the Amanda.
Hi, the Amanda.
Sasquatch.
Anyways,
Yeah. Sorry. got off topic. Speaking of Sasquatch, poor Jim Leahy died yesterday.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, John Dunsworth, the actor who plays him. It was a drag. Not off topic. We'll get back to that later. Yeah. But yeah, it was a drag. It's a big blow to those of us who are fans of the show.
Of the Trailer Park Boys.
Trailer Park Boys.
If anybody's not aware. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Speaking of depressing stuff.
Terror in the Depths.
Yeah. So, well, the name is sort of indicative of the fact that Maria just kind of like walks out into this fog right along the lakeside in the park there. And it's, I guess it sort of calls back to the fact that this fog is like pervasive and it's everywhere when you're outside. And there are lots of instances where there's just like, there's monsters just waiting in the fog around every corner. So it sort of just calls back to that whole, you're in a town filled with monsters and you can't necessarily see all of them kind of thing. But one of the main reason that I picked this song and put it in the list is because you can really hear the influence that Nine Inch Nails had on Akira Yamaoka.
Yeah.
And he has actually come out and said that Nine Inch Nails had a very big impact on him as a composer. And this song is just like, I'm just waiting for like the vocals to come in. Like, I believe I can see the future.
But the arrangement and the slow build of the sounds and things just keep coming and keep getting, and then like the bass doesn't come in until like a minute into the song, which is a great aspect of musical suspense because you don't even realize there's not a real lot of low end going on, and then when it does enter, you're like, holy cow, there's a whole spectrum there of sound I wasn't hearing. Very very much like what Trent Reznor and those guys do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that whole doing things that people aren't consciously aware of, but just really puts them on edge. Like you were saying, bringing the bass in like halfway through the song is just like, you wouldn't really notice that at first, and then when it does happen, it's like, wait, where has this been the whole time?
Yeah, right.
All right, so, oh, buddy. Next up is, I think, one of the most significant tracks, in my opinion. Let's go ahead and listen to True. All right. So if the entire soundtrack of Silent Hill 2 were an essay on the themes and ideology of the game, this song would be the thesis. This song plays during one of the most important and tense scenes in the game. So towards the end of the game, James has traveled all around Silent Hill looking for Mary, his dead wife. He gets to the Lakeview Hotel where they went on vacation shortly before she became ill, and they spent time here. And Mary absolutely loved her stay in Silent Hill. She became enamored with this town. And they made this video. It was like a homemade video, and it's just, it's very innocent. It's just James talking behind the camera, talking to Mary, who's just sitting in front of a window, talking about how much she loves it here and how she'd love to come back one day. And when you get to the hotel, you find this video cassette. Back when the game was made, it was still an actual VHS cassette. And you get to this hotel room that has a TV and a VHS player, and you pop that bad boy in, and you watch the video, and you watch that video, and then at the end of that, there's another video of James smothering Mary, who is sick in a bed with a pillow, and killing her. And this is the point in the game where you realize that while James is the protagonist of this game, he is not a hero. He is not a good person, and he is a very sick and twisted individual. And that is why he is in Silent Hill. That's why he is experiencing this sort of personalized hell, because Mary was sick with the disease for 3 years. And right before this game takes place, he kills Mary, puts her body in the back of his car, and drives out to Silent Hill. And then has this total psychotic mental breakdown where he, in his mind, the 3 years ago was when Mary died, not when this whole disease started, and when, as far as he's concerned, when his life was taken from him. And he sort of blamed Mary for shackling him to the hospital, for taking away his life for 3 years, and feeling like he was just very frustrated during that time. And
wow.
Yeah. So
that's heavy.
That is the big revelation that you find out at this point in the game. And the fact that this song is named True is so very deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
And there is another piece of, well, this is starting to get into my personal theory territory again. I've been having a lot of fun trying to pick apart like what the songs and the titles mean and stuff. But there is a piece of dialogue earlier in the game that reads, "I was not looking for the truth. I was looking for tranquility." That is on a note that was written to James that he finds after he leaves the hospital, that sort of points him toward the Lakeview Hotel. And this song has a lot of points where it's like the do-do-do-do-do-do-do kind of thing going on, where there's like a high-low. And I think that constant jumping back and forth between those two notes rapidly symbolizes the dichotomy between truth and tranquility that the game is sort of trying to represent, where James can either know the truth about what he did and about what happened, or he can live in this fantasy tranquility where Mary died of a disease 3 years ago, and he's been sort of moving on from there.
Wow. Okay. I totally buy that. I mean, and musically, it's interesting because it's obvious that it pulls on that, similar musical sentiment. I mean, instantly what comes to mind, of course, is The Exorcist. The
Exorcist?
is The Exorcist with Mike Oldfield Tubular Bells.
Yeah.
It's at that very similar kind of there's a play in the melody that again, it's interesting. You say, truth and tranquility, and in a similar way, that movie, it was the do you believe in demons and the reality of it, and the final tranquility of an exorcism, which is exorcising a demon. So it's interesting, and then in the middle you get the cello arrangement, a very classic David Darling kind of sound, with the cello, and then it moves on to a third section. So I definitely see that.
The only thing I really have to add to all that, because that was a lot between you two.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of went off on a little bit of a rant.
No, it's good. That's good. So that's
what it's all about.
That's good. No, because I don't know. We're each gonna have our tracks that we picked out, and that's good that you. So like, I agree that this is the thesis kind of concept, and I think there's a later track that I'm gonna go off on. That's the closure, I guess, so to speak.
All right.
I guess the I don't know, the resolution in a way. But the only thing that I really add to this track that I'd like to draw back later is that this is kind of the closure for Laura's character.
Yes.
So, and then this is the moment that made me consider her like drawing the truth out of him to be her conclusion rather than having her own individual conclusion, because she doesn't have her own like trauma like we were talking about.
Yeah.
But this is her equivalent to a lot of those moments, like when like the final scene with Eddie, for example, where he kind of like loses his shit. Yeah,
where he decides that he's just not going to take it anymore, and he's just going to kill anybody that laughs at him or makes fun of him from now on.
Actually, real quick, just while we're on that scene, something that I thought was really cool about that scene when I was looking through stuff, and I don't think we're doing that track.
I don't think I had it in the list, no.
No, and it's fine, because it's not a big standout track on its own, but it fits like a larger theme really well, which is that track is, I mean, while it's really, really eerie, it has wind chimes in it, which... and like a sweet little thing, and it kind of puts it back in like that track does a really good job of putting it in the mindset of like, to Eddie, the concept of like killing somebody to solve the problem is like fine and not crazy. So it puts you in like a weird space where like musically it doesn't make you feel like, hey, this is a crazy moment, because to him it's not.
Yeah. That is
Crazy Eddie?
Yeah, Crazy Eddie. Yeah. Eddie Dombrowski.
Yeah, it's what makes him feel safe, I guess, is the way I was trying to get to it, because like it plays a track in a very similar way to like the areas that make you feel safe within the game, because it uses that like sweet like wind chime melody.
Yeah, it's sort of from his perspective at that point.
Yeah. Which is like, and this I guess similar. I mean, it's not happy, but like. There's no danger undertones in this track either.
Yeah, this isn't a point where you're like in danger as a player character.
Yeah,
like, there's no enemies in the room or anything like that. But unmistakably, it is like one of the heaviest plot points in the game. Yeah,
I think never mind, I have to flesh something out. It's a grander scheme thing, so move on and I'll maybe hit it later.
Hey everybody, just got a couple of quick announcements real quick before we get into it. First off, I just want to thank you all for watching... Oh, hell, why do I keep doing this? Episode 15 of our Arcade Beat podcast, part 2 and the final part of our talk on Silent Hill 2. Towards the end of the episode, I talk a little bit about my Extra Life Marathon, and in typical fashion, I'm terrible at math. It is not in a couple weeks. It was, in fact, last weekend. So the 25-hour marathon is over. It went really, really well. Thank you again so much for everybody who came out to support me, both with donations and just hanging out in chat with me. I really appreciate it. If you did miss it, don't worry. The VOD, Video on Demand, is up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/clandupe. ClanDoopLay. You can also find all of our stuff up on our website at ClanDoopLay, ClanDoopLay.com. There will also be links to my Extra Life campaign. It is not too late to donate if that's still something you're interested in doing. $1, $5, every little bit helps. All the money that I raise goes to the Johns Hopkins Children's Center, which is just a great hospital and a great organization. As far as next episode goes, I don't really have a solid timeline to give you guys, unfortunately. Things at work at my studio have been super busy, which is a good thing, but that means I haven't had as much time to really work on the Arcade Beat stuff. I still am not sure what game we're going to be covering next, and I haven't had time to get everybody together and schedule the next recording, so that one is going to be a little ways. Honestly, might be looking at after the holidays. At this point, things always get super busy around this time of the year, but I will try to get at least one more game up before the end of the year, but I make no promises. Well, that is going to cover everything I had to talk about for now, and let's get back into it. Oh god, oh that's not the button. Alright, well, without further ado, let's go ahead and listen to Betrayal.
So this one's really fun. I asked to have this added to the playlist because I figured something out here that I like a lot.
Go on.
All right, so this is the recall I was talking about earlier with, what was it, Heaven's Night?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So at a glance, they don't sound at all alike. They're like 0% alike in your mind, right? But so Heaven's Night, when it's like a Maria theme, so to speak. Betrayal here is when you fight Maria as a final boss, if you do that. It's the same beat, that same like slinky kind of seductive beat, but they replaced the drums with like like mechanical sounds and stuff, and that eerie reverberated like kind of dissonant choir is that same harmonic motion, except that they added like an extra like dissonant tone to it. So that they took like the same core and layout of that track from Heaven's Night and just made it. They recreated it in the uneasy, unreal world, industrial tone sound font, basically.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that this isn't actually the song that plays when you fight Maria. It's the song that plays when Maria dies the third time, and then you fight the two pyramid heads.
Sure?
Unless it plays at both, it definitely plays when you fight the pyramid heads. Hang on, I'm gonna take a look.
Okay.
And I'm gonna double check just so that we know. I don't think that it does play during the Maria. Wait, let me try and find it.
I swore it did. It is this. It's this. I don't know. Okay, then it doesn't make any sense why they did that. I was so excited about that.
It does. I'm pretty sure this is that track. What is it? Ashes and Ghost. I'm pretty sure that, which actually makes a lot of sense as far as the name goes. The song Ashes and Ghost actually plays while you're fighting.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Maria.
yeah. So, all right. I'm just mixing. Okay, so it plays when you see Maria being stabbed by the pyramid heads. So I guess that's when it kicks in. So maybe that's the link I was thinking of before. I don't. I came up with this like a week ago.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, but it definitely. I mean, the song definitely does point back to Maria in the fact that she's killed the third time.
Yeah.
When this song plays, and then you have to fight the two pyramid heads.
Well, there we are.
Well, there you have it, folks.
Yeah. What do you know?
I didn't really have anything else on that. I think the title Betrayal in this instance is probably related to the fact that the pyramid head is sort of this embodiment of James's sexual frustration at having had to deal with Mary being in the hospital for 3 years. And the pyramid heads are the ones that are constantly killing Maria every time. So that's sort of the betrayal of his own inner demons sabotaging his chance at being happy. That was all off the top of my head. I hope I'm right.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Let's go with it.
Who's to say no?
Not me, clearly.
Clearly.
Sounds good to me.
I guess Akira Yamaoka would be the authority on that one.
He's not here today.
He's not here. We couldn't get him in the studio today, but
he was busy.
But we've got this. We've got him here on the satellite phone. Oh yes, hi everybody. How's it going?
But we do have an apartment for you, and I hope that solves your problem. Okay.
All right. Moving right along, let's go ahead and listen to Black Fairy.
Nice.
Yeah, I love how that song just kind of like cuts off.
There have been a few of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We used to call that kind of stuff industrial soot.
Yeah, that is definitely what it sounds like. It sounds like they recorded a just a single note from a synth, put it on a vinyl, and then put the vinyl in the microwave and warped it, and then put that on a turntable. It's like kind of sound going on in the background.
Yeah, and then the sound, what seems like air moving and noises and machinery, and it just gives you that feeling of like, this isn't good.
Yes. So this plays in the Dark Side Lakeview Hotel, which is the final section of the game before you get to the the final bosses.
Yeah.
And this is right after James watched that videotape and had the revelation that he killed Mary. So this is sort of the from an audio standpoint, like James is starting to come apart at the seams.
So is the world around him in a way too, right? Like, just
yeah,
like they kind of put that into the world he's in.
Yeah, like the walls are just like all wet and drippy, and like to in the words of Metallica, he's at the frayed ends of sanity right now, and this song is just like so perfect for getting you inside of his head and just like what is even going on, what is up, what is down. I have no idea what's going on, but I just have to press on for this last little bit until I get my closure.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. And good A plus, good job. I don't, as far as why they called it Black Fairy, I'm kind of stumped on this one.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of a track called Black Angel, actually.
Okay.
It's a George Crumb composition.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if he's into that or whatnot, but that kind of fits the same world unraveling feel.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Who's to say? But I'm going to go ahead and say that we're going to move on to Theme of Lara Reprise. So in an interesting move, and Sully kind of touched on this earlier, the Theme of Lara Reprise, actually has nothing to do with Lara. This song plays the last time that you see Angela, after she has sort of faced down her inner demons, and James sees her walking up a staircase, and the entire hallway is just engulfed in flames. And she has the very poignant line of, "So you can see it too. For me, it's always like this." Meaning that she is just sort of always carrying around... and I should mention that she before the events of the game, she kills her father and presumably also her brother, who were sexually abusive to her as a child. So she's carrying around the weight of that, and the guilt that she feels she's just like always in this sort of hellish landscape.
If I knew video games were this heavy, I would have gotten into them a long time ago.
Yeah.
No,
this game is intense.
It's intense.
Yeah, no kidding.
This scene and this track kind of so being that Lara is the character that grounds everything in reality to an extent, I think that's the choice of a theme of Lara reprise here, because this, especially after that whole like James losing his mind, everything being unreal, super industrial stuff. This is like a snapback kind of thing where he has to like deal with somebody else's, but it's also kind of a wrap up for him in a way. Because each of the characters mirrored like an aspect of something he was going through throughout the game. So this is, and Angela kind of runs through all of these things at once. I kind of went through and made note of it actually. So, there's a point, I guess. So Mary thanks James for saving her. Maria asks to be saved when he finds her after he thought she died. Lara questions his motives during the truth scene, and Eddie offers like violence as a solution or like a means for resolution. And then Angela kind of runs through all four of those things as kind of like a recap in this scene,
as a reprise, if you will.
Yeah. So this is kind of like a wrap up, and it uses the theme of Lara to reconnect the arc with like all the previous narratives of the game, and it kind of fills us in on the fact that like this is sort of the final exchange of the story.
Yeah, it's sort of starting to tie up all of the loose ends at this point.
And it's also, I'm sure, one of the few times that musically there's only one real intent. It doesn't have multiple levels of good, bad, and indifference. It has a pretty not a common, but a pretty focused musical intent. And one of the few times that something would be considered as not that everything else was abnormal, but everything it's following the more common rules, if you will, of music, of creativity, and of chord progression.
Yeah, it definitely is among the more normal or expected tracks from like a sonic standpoint. Right. Well, that is all I had on that one. And then the last song that I have to listen to today is Promise. Well, to no one's surprise, that is one of the credit roll songs. And
not a surprise.
And it plays when you get the Maria ending, in which James decides to leave Silent Hill. He's made his peace with Mary's death, and he has decided to move on and try and start a new life with Maria.
Not a surprise.
Yeah. And the song definitely has a sort of like a new beginnings kind of feel to it. It's one of the most...
End and beginning, and you get back to that kind of prog rock band from the intro.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you can really... This, like, if Theme of Lara opens and this ends the game, that's a pretty solid, like, pair of bookends, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's another one that would be on that band's album that I was talking about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and again, my whole song title conspiracy theory rearing its ugly head again. I have to think that the fact that this song is titled Promise is, like I was saying earlier, relates back to James's initial promise. His whole point for going to Silent Hill was to find Mary, to find his dead wife, and to sort of get this peace that he's been looking for. And this is the resolution of James's initial promise. He finds Maria, who is not exactly Mary, but is a very close approximation to Mary. Yeah. So in a sense, this is James fulfilling his initial objective of going to Silent Hill and rescuing Mary. Which is kind of interesting because only one of the two promises that I mentioned can get a payoff. Either he leaves with Mary, or he gets into his car and drives him and his dead wife into Toluca Lake.
Right.
Which one's better?
I don't know.
Well, that depends on I guess your point of view. A lot of people consider the in water ending to be the canon ending of the game.
I'm a big fan of the dog ending, personally.
Yes, well, the dog ending, while my favorite. So for anybody who's not aware, there are a couple joke endings for Silent Hill 2. One of them is you find this dog-shaped key early on in the game near a doghouse, and there's a room that you can use to unlock it, in which you find a little Shiba Inu at a control console, and at which point James falls to his knees and exclaims, "It was you! You were behind everything all along!" And then the dog comes over and licks his face.
I like that.
Sadly, the dog ending song is not on the soundtrack.
Oh, but I was gonna ask if we could play it as an honorable mention, but
I mean, I might be able to find it, but
it'd be nice to bring us back into like a happy state of mind before we roll out.
Let me just do a quick.
Well, I mean, it does kind of. Again, Promise does kind of bring it around.
Yeah,
kind of. You know, it's not everything all is well, but you're content enough. You know, I'll fall asleep at least tonight.
Yeah. Well, I did find the dog ending credits song. If you'd like to give that one a listen.
I'm game. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, let's just look. We'll cap it off. We got a little bit of time left. Let's go ahead and cap it off and listen to the dog ending song here. I'll drop this one in the Skype chat for you guys.
imagine why this didn't make the first cut. Best part, we go the extra mile.
All right, yeah, that's pretty much it. It just does
great.
it just does that over and over again.
I'm glad we listened to that. It would have been a real mistake not to include that one.
Right? It's like something straight out of Monty Python.
Yes, very good.
Well, I hope that brought everyone back up to some high spirits.
I love that, like, while the credits are rolling, it's playing, like, all these horrific scenes from the game, but also there's just a dog overlay over it.
Yeah. And every once in a while, it'll cut to, like, Eddie's gut and his knees for some reason, or, like, a overly buff James and, like, pizza slices flying by.
Yeah, here's a pizza, just literally you're scrolling across the screen as I'm watching it. This is great.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is, I think... from a comedy standpoint, I think one of the your best opportunities to make comedy is when people are so low and just really not expecting it, and then you just blindside them out of nowhere with the dog ending.
Excellent.
Oh man.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right. Well,
very good.
So thanks everybody for listening to some Silent Hill 2 with us. Do you guys have any ending statements, any closing remarks or anything you'd like to make?
No, this was a good one. I enjoyed this. The music is always different, and this one fit the game, but it also has its very unique creativity, and that's what makes it fun. Is that they're very well crafted, and they definitely go beyond just working with the game, but it really does. It fits it in such a cool way.
Yeah. It's always interesting to jump back and forth between doing like more retro games, and then this one was on the PlayStation 2 era, I think released in 2001, if I'm not mistaken. So it's cool to see like the things that composers can do with the more modern technology. Like this as a soundtrack could not have existed on like the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, this game wouldn't have worked at all.
No.
Could you imagine?
I can, and it could be cool, but
not quite the same.
Nah, definitely.
You don't get the immersion.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Like it does a really good job of setting the mood and also being symbolic.
Mm-hmm.
Like throughout the game, and recalling things, and I feel like a lot of the stuff, even if you're not paying hardcore attention and digging through it, because like it's a lot of stuff that I didn't notice until we decided to do this podcast. But like when we played the game, you still get like those feelings, those callback feelings. You're like, oh, this is similar, or this reminds me of that feeling of that, or this makes me feel this way, which is kind of the intent of the game at this time. And I feel like it uses a good combination of showing you both like sweet and sad melodies and dissonant sounds, and kind of having a variance there, like almost like a spectrum between like how far from like the sweet melody it is, like slight dissonance versus hard dissonance, and like using industrial sounds versus instruments, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just really well crafted in that sense.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I already said this at the beginning, but just to sort of reiterate my whole idea that one of the reasons that this soundtrack and the game are so successful is because they are so grounded in reality. And that just, as a player, makes it a lot easier to step into the shoes of the protagonist. So it's less of a spectacle and more of an experience. And the closer you can bring the player to feeling like they are actually in the game and they are the character, especially in this kind of like a psychological thriller, survival horror kind of game, definitely the better. There are definitely games where that's not the intent, and so I don't want to say that like this is something that you should always do. Like when I'm playing Devil May Cry, I'm there to watch the spectacle of Dante flipping all over the place and literally driving a motorcycle up the side of a building. Like that's not immersion, that's a spectacle, but that's why you're there. And it's very important to know what you are as a game, to know that like your purpose. And I think that Silent Hill 2 really, really nailed that part.
Cool.
All right. Well, cool. Thanks for listening, everybody. Gonna do my typical closing podcast stuff, but if you liked the show, visit us on iTunes and give us a rating. That definitely helps us stand out on the very crowded iTunes podcast charts. And share it with a friend, if you
or two,
a friend or two, if you know anybody else who likes music and or video games. I know there's a couple people out there who aren't even particularly into the games side of thing, but just like hearing the music analysis stuff, and that's really cool. So if you know anybody who might enjoy the podcast, share it. Word of mouth really helps us out a lot. And definitely want to thank all of our subscribers, Sully, Andrew, Alex, Seraph, Poltiv, BB, Vince. You guys rock. Your support really, really does mean a lot to us, and thank you again so much for everything that you do. Also, a little plug. This will be going up about a week or two before my Extra Life marathon, this year on November 4th to 5th, 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's a Saturday to Sunday. I'll be doing a 25-hour marathon. Thank you, Daylight Savings Time, where I'll be playing Devil May Cry games, and I will be doing my traditional donating $1 for every time that I die in the games over the course of the marathon. And I always challenge people to match me dollar for dollar. But if you can't do that, if you just want $1, $5, everything really helps. And there will be links to my Extra Life campaign in the show notes. All the money goes towards the Johns Hopkins Children's Center that I represent. And they are a not-for-profit hospital, which means that they never deny someone treatment because they can't afford to pay. And that also means that they rely on donations in order to do things like keep the lights on. But they're also really great in having programs for the kids to really make them feel like they're kids. I know last year for Halloween, I went around and I went like reverse trick-or-treating with a bag, and I picked up a bunch of candy from various stations, and I brought the bags of candy to kids who were too sick to leave their rooms. But they let them like dress up in costumes, and we like went door to door and handed candy to all the kids who couldn't leave their rooms. And it's those little things that let the kids feel like, they're actually kids, that I think is really important, and what makes Johns Hopkins really such a great hospital. That's one of the reasons I love doing this every year. So thank you guys for listening to my spiel, and please consider making a donation to my Extra Life campaign. And finally, thank you again for listening to Silent Hill 2. And next time, we'll listen to something else.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
See ya.
See you in the flip-flop.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to click that subscribe button to stay current on all things Do-Play. If you really like us, why not support us on GameWisp? We've got lots of awesome rewards for our subscribers, including early access to our videos and exclusive content. Thanks. Catch you guys next time.